everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Keith Giffen Day. We're taking a look at Dr. Fate issue number 1, cover dated July 1987. So with Keith Giffen we moved around a little bit, but it's going to be pretty much chronological from this point on. We've taken a look at his Defender stuff in the 70s. It was very kind of Kirby influenced. We took a look at Ambush Bug, which started to have the influence from Alex Sinner, right? Munoz is the artist there. Then we went back in time because I got that series Legion of Superheroes, the Great Darkness saga. So we looked at those. More of a kind of DC house style, slightly kind of George Perez-y feeling vibe, I guess is how I describe the art there. And now we're moving on 2 years past Ambush Bug, so we still get some of the flourishes from Ambush Bug in this comic here, and kind of the look and the aesthetic. Not quite as comedic, of course. It's definitely been worked on, and definitely has a darker character, I guess, in this because of the subject matter also. But there's something about this art style here that really hits with me. I don't know if it's because this is not Keith Giffen writing. It's GM DeMatteis. I think that's how you say it. I never know with some of these names. And something about the storytelling, the layout here that really impressed me and I thought was really cool. And so that's what we're going to talk about as we go through Dr. Fate issue number 1. Pretty standard cover, nothing that would really jump out at me, back in the day. But now, as I said, with the actual book and the story, really some amazing storytelling going on. So let's have a look. So you get your standard splash page, right? Character coming at you. I have to believe that there's maybe Tim Sale saw this drawing here because there's something about it that feels a little bit Tim Sale-y to me, if I can say that. GM DeMatteis is the writer, Keith Giffen illustrator, Dave Hunt inker, Augustin Mas letterer, and Anthony Tolan colorist. And again, with the masses of black that we're going to see in the background, right? And then characters later on, maybe not so obvious here with the superhero-y kind of action sequence, but when we get to just bit players on the side and just regular human characters, we'll see more of that Munoz, Alex Sinner influence that's still around, but I see it here in the backgrounds and the depiction of the cityscapes and stuff. And there's something about the way Giffen is framing these panels, right? The composition, the angles and all that, that I feel like he's already mastered all of that. And that's why later on he would actually lay out books for other artists because he was so strong at the storytelling. There's just something about it that's all worked out and that's just so easy to follow, but also visually evocative, which I wasn't getting as much of in the Legion of Superheroes thing from 1982. And you could still spot some of those influences. These characters here, again, kind of monstrous, kind of a frogman, Jack Kirby kind of vibe here, that we'll see throughout as well when we see this creature who we're about to be introduced to, and his minions. These are his minions, right? Great silhouette shot in the background here. And there's some stuff too that some visual shorthand that feels almost in line with Batman the Animated Series, and this is a little bit before that, and kind of some of the depictions of the backgrounds and stuff. There's almost kind of a 1950s vibe to it, for lack of a better explanation. This whole sequence where the character actually kind of materializes out of gas, I guess, that emanates from Dr. Fate's hand and then kind of becomes whole, and that funny detail of whatever last bit of smoke or gas is coming off of him is emanating from his nipples. That's a nice little touch there. And again, not overtly Jack Kirby-ish, but you can see some of the influence in the line work and the textures and stuff, which is fun. He's starting to integrate all those influences together, and where they're not so obvious anymore, and it's becoming more of a homogenous kind of style that is his own, I guess, is how I describe it. And that I also like, again, I see these pages, the aesthetic is different, but the layout, the storytelling, pretty darn similar to what he's doing for Trencher, 6-7 years later. Not much of a difference there. He's already a master, again, layout artist. So this is an example where, through the pages, as the action ramps up, the vertical panel, the horizontal panels, the bigger kind of half page splash panel, I guess is what you'd call it. And he kind of varies it up and makes it more and more dynamic, varies the angles, boom, pays you off with a splash page, almost kind of like Frank Miller in Dark Knight Returns, right? So I don't think that's a new thing, but Dark Knight and Miller definitely popularized it. So I don't know if Giffen maybe got the idea from there, but it really opens up to, there's something about his art here that's a bit more minimalist. That aspect, like I said, kind of reminds me of the Batman animated series, just enough lines so that you understand what you need to understand and not too much more. And just the layering in this image, the gases or the smoke and stuff, that's kind of even that, you know, done over in the colors and the background here is really cool for 1987. This seems like one of those series that DC was willing to put in more money for the coloring and make it more quality. You can, you know, I don't know if you can see the dots really up close. You know, there's a period in comics, I think with Dark Knight Returns and somewhere around there, Watchmen, that there was a DC at least started printing books where the color was of a much better quality. From like 87 to like 90, 91 stuff. They did that for a while there. And this, I guess, is one of those books that benefited from that. And the colors are great in this. Very evocative and really helps support the image. Get a little bit of that too over here with the color holds, just like on this page. That's interesting. Like, what about this page, right? Like, okay, for deadline purposes, this is a perfect page, right? You got through this in like maybe 10, 15 minutes, right? But it's a very evocative page, and I don't even know what I'm looking at, but in the context of like the storyline, the build up and stuff, there's something about it that really works, and is not necessarily confusing because we're in the world of Dr. Fate, right? And weird stuff can be happening. He's always in kind of weird dimensions and lands and stuff. More kind of monochromatic use of coloring here that really works for this other dimension. The colors are really beautiful in this book. Like, what is going on in this shot here? This is, you know, I guess you could compare it to Doctor Strange when he goes to other dimensions and stuff, right? The visual representation of these other worlds and dimensions. I feel like Keith Giffen is keeping it fairly simple, but very effective, and it works really well. And yeah, so these sequences when we're back on Earth, I guess, and just regular human characters, the layouts obviously become a little bit more sober, a little, you know, more traditional, I guess is how you'd put it. These background representations, though, very similar to what we saw before, the cityscapes and stuff. And just the look of those characters, the human characters, once again, pulled right out of Alex Sinner still. Like, these are the moments where it's a little too obvious, maybe, to a certain extent. But then you get a shot like this, like I said, the minimalist kind of thing, where I almost feel like it's more of an animated style. It's got like a 1950s vibe. Cool sequence as the demons are coming out of the smoke here. Love this composition, the layering of it, very good. This is another section where I can feel a little bit more of that Kirby influence, right, with the monsters, which makes sense. This weird shading thing, again, that comes from Alex Sinner. You can look at those comics and see that all throughout. Just the thing that Keith Giffen will keep throughout pretty much his whole career, where he just kind of blacks everything out there from the brow down. This is, again, man, if you guys don't know, go look at Alex Sinner. These are characters straight out of there. The inking, everything. Get a bit of a glimpse of the Joker here, because we are at Arkham Asylum, right? It's a fun interpretation. We'll see him later, but I think it's a stat of the same panel. I love just the framing of the tower of the castle here that they're walking towards in that first shot, and that silhouette. Great silhouette. Just the whole sequence here is great. Really clear. Does a double, you know, he statted part of this. No, inking's different. Is it? No, it's a stat. Yeah, so he just, I guess he drew this, statted it, and then added the two figures in the stat there. Bit of whiteout. Works real well. What a great, once again, great establishing shot. Very evocative, very weird. So again, I do feel like, because it's Dr. Fate, similar to Doctor Strange, he's playing a lot with surreal elements. You know, this candle is huge, right? Or at least it seems like. Maybe this one's up close to us, but this one's behind them. So there's some weird kind of perspective stuff going on there. It's interesting. A little bit of, you know, to a certain extent, on paper, in drawings, optical illusions. And just, yeah, this thing is kind of bonkers. But just the simplification of his artwork, I find on this one, you know, just relying on really strong, simple compositions and some really weird ideas, I guess. Just such a strange book that it's really got my interest piqued. Gotta assume he knows about art because he's got a Picasso reference there. And I didn't mention it before, but he does some interesting things with the cape as well. Not quite Todd McFarlane and what he'll do later on with Spawn, but definitely taking more of a triangular approach, for lack of a better term. Origami, paper. McFarlane's often said that Spawn's cape is more like origami than actual cape. I feel like Giffen's trying a little bit of that here. The Kirby eyes, the Kirby mouth, right? These are just Kirby compositions. Some more Kirby flourishes all throughout the creature, of course. The almost square fingernails that I love that Kirby does. So again, he's at this point maybe a little bit more adept at not hiding, but integrating the Kirby influences more and not so much the Munoz stuff, right? He's just got some great points of view. The storytelling is just so clear. These trees just come back over and over and over. 2 trees, one on the left, one on the right, and the cityscape. Like, that's his whole shot in this whole comic here, which is fun. Unless, are we actually coming back to the same spot? I didn't notice. Maybe I should check it out real quick. We get a lot, right? Yeah, it's just, maybe I'm seeing a bit too much into it, but it's just a motif that he's using compositionally very often. Right, there's the tree again. There's 2 of them. So not exactly the same shot, but the same intent, I guess. Love stuff like that. That's smart, just smart drawing. You know it's going to work. Tree, tree, tree. Put it everywhere. Tree, tree, tree. Got our Joker again. I'm going to hope and assume that he's in the next issue. I haven't read these yet, right, guys? I bought them months ago for, in a pack, I think, for really, really decent price. So these are easy to find for sure. And just hoping again, because I'm reading them issue by issue, that next issue, when I read issue 2, hope to see more of the Joker. I hope that's a sign of things to come. Which is always good when you go through a comic and, they're giving you something to look forward to or hope for. This is another interesting splash page, right? You're just really drawing one panel real quick. Tree. Some coniferous trees in the background there. Shaded in figure. Boom, your page is done. Well, I guess you have to ink that in. Just even the smart decisions he makes for deadlines with like a page like this and the page we saw earlier on in the review. It still works so well aesthetically and visually with the rest of the storytelling. So it's not like it's, at a first degree reading, you don't pick up on that kind of stuff. It's just the startled sense of the image is what hits you. Startling is what I'm trying to say. There's some Bill Sienkiewicz doing some shadow. Pretty cool. And, I always assumed Image were the first to do this, where all the ads were at the end of the book, but I see now, and, just realizing now, but of course there are other DC books, this whole prestige format kind of idea that they had after Dark Knight Returns is apparent in this comic here with the better print quality. I just realized now there are no ads throughout the story. I should double check that, but I don't think there are, because it does really seem like they put all the ads at the back here. This is a classic image I remember from when I was a kid. Superboy punching Superman. I was like, what's going on? Let me just double check that. There are no ads in this book. Very cool, DC. All right, Dr. Fate, pretty fun read. We'll be going through issue 2 on our next Giffen review. So guys, if you're still watching and you are subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your continued support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It'll only take a quick second for you, and it really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So everyone out there, have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!